Hi, my name is Charlie. I'm a registered counselor and working with special needs family, parents with special needs children. Okay, today I'm going to talk about 3 steps in understanding my child with special needs. Let's start. So, how much do the community knows about special needs? In recent years, developmental, physical, behavioral, and psychosocial screening to identify children with special needs have become more central and widely available here in Malaysia. Okay, however, there are still barriers to special needs intervention. One of the barriers is due to lack of understanding about special needs. Okay, similarly, a research done here in Malaysia found out that lack of understanding about special needs children, which result in parents fall between the gap in getting required special needs services. So, despite all the availability of assessments and tests for special needs children, and it's widely accessible now around Malaysia, but there's still a gap for parents or the community to receive special needs services or treatment or intervention. Okay, so this webinars will explore 3 steps in understanding special needs children. Okay, the first one, understanding type of special needs. Special needs children refer to a child that is determined to require special attention and specific necessities that other children do not have. Okay, there are 4 major types of special needs children. Okay, physical, developmental, behavioral, and emotional or emotional, sensory impaired. So these are the 4 major types of special needs children. Okay, the first one, physical. Physical is a condition that affects one's mobility, dexterity, physical and capacity, meaning that if a child with a physical difficulty, meaning that they have like in terms of they can't walk, they can't see, or they can't move around, and they have difficulties in moving around, affecting one's mobility. Okay, hearing and visual impairments, muscular dystrophy, group of diseases that cause progressive weakness and loss of muscle mass. Multiple sclerosis, a condition that affects the brain and spinal cord, which result in vision issues, balance or sensation, arm or leg of movement. Epilepsy is a neurological disorder which will affect some part of the physical, like hands and legs. Okay. Developmental. Okay. This is a group of conditions that are due to impairment in learning, physical, language, or behavior, hence impact on one's daily functioning. Such conditions start during the developmental period and tends to last throughout one's lifetime. Okay, developmental is like a child grow up through the different developmental stages. Okay, so they can be delayed in terms of speaking, in terms of information processing, that how they process, how they perceive the world, that's delayed there. So yeah, so which is affecting how they operate around the environment. Okay, some of the examples include cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorder, intellectual disability, language and speech disorder. So, for example, if there's a lacking in intellectual disability or there's delay in intellectual, which lead to intellectual disability, one have difficulty in terms of learning academics. Okay, so if there's delay in language or speech disorder, a child tends to talk slower or later than other child. Okay. All right. As you can see this picture here, this is autistic spectrum disorder. What are they have inside and how they affected? Okay. There's different types of disorder in autism spectrum. So these are the one of the few examples. Okay. Next one, behavioral emotional. So it's characteristics and behaviors associated with emotional disturbance and or behavioral problems which may include aggressive or antisocial behavior, inattentiveness, distractibility, and impulsiveness. Okay, so children that have behavioral or emotional or both together, they tend to have difficulty in concentrations. They tend to be aggressive. They have inadequate or not sufficient or not unable to develop intra or interpersonal relationship with the friends, teachers, or family members. Okay, so the one of the few examples are attention deficit disorder. This one mostly for older kids. Younger kids, they tend to have ADHD. So what's the difference between as the kids grow older, hyperactivity symptoms tends to reduce. So therefore, that's the main difference between ADHD and ADD. Okay, the kids as they grow older, the hyperactivity symptoms will tend to reduce. So it become ADD instead of ADHD. Okay, second one will be bipolar disorder. Type of disorder that can cause extreme shift in moods and behavior. They can be high or low. So they can be happy at one moment and very sad at another moment. Okay, another one is oppositional defiant disorder, ODD, a type of behavior disorder whereby a child are defiant, uncooperative, and hostile to others. For example, parents, teachers, and students. This is more of a behavioral difficulties. Okay, a disorder whereby a child tends to have a very strong behavioral difficulties like not following instructions. They tends to be aggressive. Okay, next one. Sensory impairment. Impairment of senses, five senses, vision, smell, hearing, touch. Okay, and also there's another two, which is the vestibular system. Vestibular system is a system between both ears. So what they do is they do balancing and spatial orientation. Another one is proprioception. This is a body awareness on body position among how you move your body around, how your body adjusts to your environment. Okay, this is quite straightforward. Some of the examples are blind, deaf, visually impaired. It's not totally blind. There's still partial vision, but some of it are disrupted. And limited hearing is not totally deaf, but it's just limited. Okay. So those are the four types of special needs that you need to know and find out. Okay. So once you get that, we move to the second step, which is gathering information. Okay. So once you know what type of special needs your children have or may have, the second step will be gathering information. Okay. This step focuses on gathering information that's relevant to one's need. Okay. By knowing which type or what yours, or what are the types or what are the characteristics of a special needs, then you will know, then this is the time where you have gathered information, what type of treatment or what type of intervention that you need. Okay, so this, during the gathering information, things that we explore are types of professionals, type of health professionals, type of special needs services. So these are the two things that we will focus on gathering information. Okay, so type of health professional for special needs. Okay, the first one will be medical doctors. Okay, they are normally the first person that we will send to. Okay, GP, practitioners, general practitioners. So generally, if you suspect your child have any special needs or adult with special needs, you send to a GP, general practitioners. And if the doctors also suspect there's some sort of special needs characteristic, then they'll refer to a specialist. Okay, when they refer to a specialist for children, it's called pediatrician. Pediatrician is a doctors where they focus on children, or they specialize in children. Okay, that's why they are called pediatrician. So those who are focusing more on special needs like developmental pediatricians. Okay, doctors who specialize in identifying developmental and behavioral differences. Okay, developmental disabilities include like cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, and visual and hearing impairments. Okay, so normally after the child after the birth of a child, they will see pediatricians. Okay, from there they will do all sort of assessments and screening to see if there's something wrong. Okay, and then they also provide diagnosis including learning disorders such as dyslexia. Okay, another one will be pediatric psychiatrist. Okay, doctors who specialize in diagnosing and treating behavioral and thought disorders children, include biological and psychological factors. in order to create a treatment plan for a child with behavior and thought disorders. Okay, it may include medication to help control or minimize certain behaviors or thoughts. Okay, so some of the kids who have emotional and behavioral difficulties to an extent whereby their behavior may harm the community or people around them. This is where doctors will put in or introduce medication to help reduce such behaviors, as well as kids that have quite impulsive. So this is whereby we may want to introduce, doctors may want to introduce medication to help control or minimize the thoughts or behaviors. Okay, for adult is psychiatrist. You go for psychiatrist, doctors that specialize in mental health disorders. Okay, across the special needs board, some of them are, or most of them are related to mental health disorders. Okay, especially behavioral and emotional difficulties. Okay, what psychiatrists do is provide psychiatric evaluation such as behavioral and emotional disorder, something like ADD, bipolar, or defiant disorder. Okay, so for children, we go for a pediatrician. For adults, we go for psychiatrist to get the screening and diagnosis. Okay, the next one is a psychologist. Okay, a psychologist study emotional, social, and cognitive processes and behavior by observing, recording, and interpreting how a person relates to one another, to his or her surroundings. A psychologist do not prescribe medications. Okay, only doctors. One of the main differences is doctors provide medication, psychologists don't. They do not provide medication. Okay, there are a few types of psychologists you can find in Malaysia for diagnosing or to do assessment or testing or checking or screening for special needs. Okay, the first one would be clinical psychologists. For children and adults, they develop mental health intervention for those who have difficulties in terms of like loss of esteem, depression, anxiety, and loneliness. Okay, they also do assessment, clinical consultation. They do positive behavioral support, therapy, facilitation of family support, as well as liaise with other health professionals. Okay, they're able to diagnose some type of special needs like autism, Asperger's, ADHD, some behavioral difficulties. Okay, they also do cognitive assessment to determine the level of intellectual or cognitive abilities. Okay, so for adult, these clinical psychologists can deal with both children and adults. Okay, so for example, if they do intellectual abilities to see is there any delays or is there any disability in terms of intellectual, which might affect their learning of in school. Okay, so Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale WAIS is for adult, and Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children, WIS is for children. Okay, second one is educational psychologist. Okay, educational psychologists, they don't do diagnosis, at least in Malaysia context. Okay, they provide educational testing. Okay, not diagnosis. They study children of all ages and how they learn. Okay, they analyze how children process his or her emotion, social and cognitive. Such analysis identify learning, social and behavioral issues that impede children's learning. So what they do is analyze a child for example, in a school setting. So how they process his or her emotion, social and cognitive. So from there, they can identify what is affecting the children's learning. Okay, they collaborate with special needs teachers to develop and design special instructional learning strategies, material learning tools to meet educational needs of special needs children. So they work with special needs teachers to see what can be done, or what are the solutions, or what are the available strategies. How can we tackle a certain issues that related to a child? Okay, next one is developmental psychologist. So they develop treatment plan. Okay, they do not provide diagnosis. There is no dogmatic diagnosis. They cannot diagnose in Malaysia context for now. The only psychologist that can do diagnosis is clinical psychologist. Okay, so what developmental psychologists do is they observe the developmental problems of children with special needs and then recommend appropriate prevention and intervention to the problems. Okay, so what developmental psychologists do is they apply developmental psychology theories. Okay, they study the developmental stage of children's from the child to adult to okay geriatric. Okay, so what they do is they apply some sort of a theories to assist the child. So they can come up with a treatment plan on how they can assist the child in each development stages, okay, to overcome the child's difficulties. So they don't do any diagnosis. Okay, so once you know what are the health professionals that they are working with or who to go to, okay, next is once you know who to diagnose, what to do with screening and everything, which health professionals is available to diagnose and do screening, you move on to type of special needs services. Okay, these are the four types of services available or and commonly found in Malaysia. Okay, first therapies, second special need education, third special need association or non-governmental organization (NGO), and the fourth one is counseling. Okay, so therapies, there's a lot of therapies commonly found available in Malaysia. The first one would be behavioral therapy. Okay, you work with child and adult. So common behavior therapy is the one that you find everywhere in Malaysia now is applied behavior analysis, is ABA. It's for autism, typically it includes in early intervention program. Okay. The next one, behavior modification. What they do is behavior modification. They promote or reduce targeted behavior. Let's say a child is not listening or refuse to follow instruction. So such behavior will be a targeted behavior. Why? Because it's not appropriate or they're supposed to follow instructions. So from there, they'll come up with a strategy or behavior modification to reduce such behavior. Okay, early intervention program for autism normally involve ABA. Second one will be speech therapy. It works for child and adult as well. Okay, therapy for speech and language disorder. Okay, so sometimes it's known as speech and language therapy or just speech therapy. So speech disorder refers to difficulty in producing words and sound. So it can be something about the tongue, something about the muscle, and things like that. So language disorder, on the other hand, refers to difficulty in understanding and putting together sentences and idea of communication. Okay, it can be the processes of producing words in their head. Okay, so speech and language is two different things, but they're all done by the same therapy. Okay, the next one will be physiotherapy or physical therapy. It works on child and adult as well. It helps with development, rehabilitation, and improvement of movement skills and performance. For example, weak muscle tone or tense muscle, especially those who have difficulties like cerebral palsy, motor development delay. Okay, they work on the gross motor skills such as sitting, standing, walking, as well as improvement in flexibility, strength, and endurance. Okay, so some children who have difficulties in muscle tone or motor development, they tend to have a very rigid movement, very robotic movement, or they have difficulty standing. They need a leg brace, a walker to help them. So this is where they will attend physiotherapy to improve the gross motor skills. Okay, the next one is occupational therapy, also work for child and adult. Helps special needs children in terms of developing or recovering, improving, as well as maintain the skills needed for daily living. Okay, for example, dressing, bathing, toileting, eating. Okay, it's also involved strengthening fine motor skills such as writing, cutting, shoe tying, and using utensils. From my experience, there's a lot of people out there do not like they only like when you talk about occupational therapy, they always tie it in with fine motor skills. But occupational therapy, they do beyond that. Not only they do focus on fine motor skill, but they also help a special needs child to develop the skills for daily living. Okay, so one type of occupational therapy is to focus on sensory integration therapy. So they focus more on sensory. So this is for children that experiencing difficulty in tolerating or processing sensory information, in particular those with developmental behavioral disorders like autism, ADD or ADHD, developmental coordination disorder, and childhood anxiety disorder. Okay, so in this sensory integration therapy, they focus on tactile, which is the ground or the surface, sound, taste, visual, and vestibular, movement and balancing. Also, they do proprioception. So yeah. So when you talk about sensory, most of the time you hear sensory overload. Okay, sensory overload, it means that there's the stimulus or the income or the incoming information on sensory, it's hit higher than other sensory. So when you say sensory overload, it can be something, one of the sensory has been reaching the max. Okay, it can be tactile. For example, if the child have a very sensitive tactile, whereby they start tiptoeing. You can see this in special needs children of autism. Child with autism, you can see they tiptoeing. They cannot have the full flat feet on the ground. Okay, so and some of them, when you listen to loud music or some very low frequency or high frequency, they start closing their ears. Okay, this is what we meant by sensory overload, whereby they cannot handle certain sensory when it's too much for them. Okay. All right. The next one is medication or surgery therapy. This also work for child and adult. However, medication surgery is an alternative therapy to manage certain symptoms or characteristic of special needs. So on top of that therapies, some of them might have difficulties or require more, for example, like medication or surgery. And like cerebral palsy or with tendency of seizure or epilepsy, this is where they will be treated with medication. Surgeries for those experiencing pain in movement, lengthening muscle that are too short through surgery helps with growth and gait. Hyperactivity, impulsivity, short attention span, distractibility, bipolar, where they have mood swings, compulsive repetitive symptoms, including stereotype motor movement. And you have self-injury behavior, we have aggression and tantrums, anxiety, social withdrawal. So these are a few of the examples that which require alternative like medication or surgery to further to add on to the existing therapy that a child is receiving. Okay, so next one is early intervention program. Okay, there's a misunderstanding a lot about this. So let me make it clear. Early intervention programs refer to services and support that are available to young children or babies with developmental delays and disabilities and their families. Okay, so inside an early intervention program, it can have a lot of different kind of services and supports, include speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and other types of services based on the needs of the child and the family. Okay, they're able to have a significant impact on child's ability to learn new skills and overcome challenges, and can increase success in school and life. So early intervention program, it can be different for each kid. Okay, some kids it requires speech, or some kids they require OT or visual. Okay, that doesn't mean everyone is the same. As you can see, parents sometimes they don't understand whereby early intervention program it's just academic. No, it doesn't comprises just academic. It can be different type of intervention inside an early intervention program, depending on what the child needs. Okay, so that's what it meant by early intervention program, where you handle the child needs at a very early stage, and depending on what the child has difficulty or issues with, and you provide such services. So it becomes a program, an early intervention program. Okay, so we move on to special need education services. So this is what mainly focus on education. For private sector, you can see there's like enrichment center, early intervention center, homeschooling program for group and individual, special learning center, rehabilitation center, home-based, community-based therapy, like ABA, private school, kindergarten, nursery, play school, or some of them may require shadow aid. Okay, so these are the education services in the private sectors. So parents or the community can go through each of them and learn what do they provide and does it fit the children. So you just go through and see if it provide the needs for your children. Okay, on the government side, they have a program Pemilihan Khas. They have a program Pendidikan Inklusif. Okay, they have program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi. So all these three is happening within a government school. Okay, as of 31st of October 2018, 2,346 schools around Malaysia provide PPKI, which is Program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi. So there's a special class within a school that provide or cater to special needs education. Okay, and you have another one is Pusat Perkhidmatan Pendidikan Khas. This one work like a rehab center or it's like after school program. You know, they have occupational therapy, they have speech therapy. Okay, and the last one will be Sekolah Menengah Pendidikan Khas Vocational. This is for those kids um, after primary school, when they want to move to secondary school and they found out that academic might not be might not suit the certain child, this is where they will go for Sekolah Menengah Pendidikan Khas vocational, where they will learn skills like arts and craft. Okay. So the next one will be Special Needs Association or NGO. Okay, some of the example are the National Autism Society of Malaysia, NASOM, Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia, Gabungan Anak-Anak Palsi Cerebrum, Cerebral Palsy Association, GAPS, Persatuan Orang Pekak Malaysia. This is for those who have deaf, Sekolah Kanak-Kanak Pekak Selangor, Persatuan Kanak-Kanak Spastik Selangor, and Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur. Okay, so this is in terms of special need association. You can look at the local um, places in your place, like locally, to find what NGO, what other special needs association around you that is available. Okay, the next one, counseling. Okay, counseling is talking therapy that involves a counselor listening to you and helping you find ways to deal with emotional issues. Okay, so what counselor can do, not only talking therapy, what they also do is provide guidance. Okay, develop coping mechanism either for older kids or younger kids that are ready for talking therapy. Okay, and also they can work with parents to develop coping mechanism. It's not easy having to raise special needs children. So parents need some way to cope with the stresses that they have. And also counselor provide guidance for parents or child. For example, a high functioning special needs children, okay, once they reach secondary school, they're looking towards beyond secondary school. For example, they're looking for an employment or what can they do. This is where counselor can come in and provide guidance, okay, and understanding parents' expectation as well as the child's well-being. Okay, sometimes parents want something more than what the child can do, so the expectation is too high, which sometimes become unrealistic. It's not achievable for the children or their child. That's where parents have difficulties and they have, for example, they'll get very upset because, the children cannot meet their expectations. And also sometimes parents or parent become estranged and they don't get involved in the child's treatment plan. Okay, there's a lot of reason why parents stop engaging. It can be avoiding or things like that, or it's difficult to accept. Okay, so this is where counseling services come in and help parents and also children or adults with special needs that require other therapy other than like visual or this is mostly on talking therapy and provide or safe or a platform for them to share about their difficulties. Okay, so after the first two steps, we come in the third step. Okay, the third step is about planning. Okay, understand your child's condition. Okay, diagnosis provide direction. So the first step is to understand your child condition. Okay, you go through screening and diagnosis, whereby it will provide direction. For example, my child has a Down syndrome. So from there, I know what are the characteristics of Down syndrome. Okay, and then how does it impact on my child, or how can I help to improve the child's condition? Okay, next is what type of therapy or treatment the child needed. Okay, this is where the second stage are. Okay, what are your priorities as a parent or parents? What do you want? Okay, and what do your child's need? Is it physical, emotion, or behavior? Okay, and then how can a treatment or therapy help my child? Okay, so if you go for certain therapies and certain education services, okay, you have to look at it in a way that how can such treatment or therapy or services or special needs, other special needs services help my child. Okay, you have the right to ask how does it help your child, okay, and how long will it last? Okay, so for example, maybe it's a lifetime thing, or is this like 3 months or 4 months? Okay, these are the things that parents need to be aware of. Okay, what do my child need, and how can I meet my child's needs? This require a lot of planning. Okay, and then what are your presenting concerns? Financial, is it feasible? And how much money I need to spend? Is it affordable? Can I afford this on a monthly basis? These are the things that parents have to focus. Uh, in fact, one of the research done shows that financial is the number one concern in parents with special needs, because it can services or private services can be very expensive. Okay, and mental health well-being. This is for caregiver and caretaker. Are you not overly stressed? Are you facing any other difficulties other than financial? And how do other family members take it? Okay, you have to bear in mind that some can be supportive, some may not. So how do we manage about it? Okay, and the last one will be logistic. A lot of traveling. For example, if you're in Kedah, Sabah, Sarawak, so how do you plan to move about to provide or to receive special needs services? Okay, like flying once a week or flying once a month. So logistic is part of the planning. So these are the main components the parents have to consider when it comes to planning. First, you have to understand, and then what type of treatment or therapy your child needs, okay, and what are your presenting concerns, okay, and you also need a plan. Like, what's your plan? A long-term goals, short-term goals. Is it realistic or not? And how's the future of my child? One question that I always get a lot is, what do I do when I'm no longer around? Okay, how do my child uh, survive without me taking care of them? So things that requires a goal. Okay, set your priority and focus on the goal and how you want to achieve it. And by all means, achieve it within your capability. Do not overstress yourself. Do not overspend and things like that. Plan accordingly, because it can be a long-term goals or short-term goals. Okay. All right. So that's it from me. Thank you.